Hey guys, Dr. Childs here. Today we're going to be going over the complete ingredient list found inside Armour Thyroid. I've done this with other thyroid medications and I plan to do this with every single thyroid medication out there for one reason. Thyroid patients should be aware, acutely aware of whatever they put inside of their body, and it is the inactive ingredients that can cause a lot of problems for certain thyroid patients because it can lead to that thyroid medication either not being tolerated or causing its own symptoms or reducing its absorption and so on. So if you are a patient who has not been feeling well on your thyroid medication, especially Armour Thyroid, then this should be helpful for you. Before I jump in, I just want to say that there have been some people who have noticed a change in how effective Armour Thyroid is. So in other words, they were taking Armour Thyroid for many years, maybe many months, and they haven't had any issues. Then all of a sudden, bam, something changed and it's no longer working for them. So the reason for some of this might be related to the inactive ingredients, but there are also other potential explanations for that as well. So let's talk about the inactive ingredients. I'll be going over each of them. There's only 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's 5 here. I'll be talking about what they are, what they do, and to help you better understand why they're in there and how they may cause problems for you. So number 1, we have calcium stearate. Calcium stearate is very similar to magnesium stearate, and it acts as a lubricant or a flow agent. And what that means is it is more for the machines that manufacture the capsules and tablets than it is for you, the patient. It's not in there for you. It's in there so that the manufacturers can mass produce these capsules and tablets, millions at a time. Now, not all at once, but throughout the entire day. Now, the problem with these lubricants is that they may not necessarily be needed. And I know that because there's other medications like Tirosint which don't contain them. So obviously there's something that Tirosint is doing that doesn't require the use of this, but I think it's probably more a relic of the past, and maybe they're using older manufacturing machines and facilities and so on. I'm not sure. But if you can avoid this, it would be great to avoid it if possible, but it is found in many thyroid medications, including Armour Thyroid, just as a different source. In this case, it's used as calcium stearate, and in other medications like levothyroxine, it's used as magnesium stearate. Then we have dextrose. So dextrose is really just a sugar, very similar to glucose even, but it is usually sourced from corn or wheat. Now, by the time you actually get the dextrose, that sourcing generally doesn't matter for most people, but it can be a problem for some. So if you are having issues, maybe it's the source of the dextrose, not the actual dextrose itself, because remember, it is in a tiny amount. Number 3, we have microcrystalline cellulose. Now, this is really a wood pulp and it is used as a bulking agent. So let me just explain why this is necessary. Now, you do almost always need a bulking agent of some sort for any thyroid medication, and that has to do with the dosing of the active ingredients. So if I looked at the active ingredients of Armour Thyroid, you would find that it contains 38 micrograms of T4 and 9 micrograms of T3 in each grain. Now, a standard capsule, like you would take in a supplement form, can hold 500 milligrams of total volume. Now, in each milligram is 1,000 micrograms. So really quickly, you can see that the amount of active thyroid hormone ingredient in any one of these capsules is really, 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 really small. So they need these bulking agents to build up the rest of the volume around it so they can make sure that they're getting the exact dose into your body. So pretty much no matter what, whenever you use a thyroid medication of any type, including, by the way, T2, which is, I have a T2 supplement, so I know this, you will need a bulking agent of some sort, and that just is only there to make sure that you get the amount that you're trying to get in every single dose. Because if you don't, it's really easy to go over or under the target dose that's stated on the bottle. So yes, you do need a bulking agent of some sort, but you don't necessarily have to use microcrystalline cellulose. There are other options. But I will tell you from experience that most people don't react to microcrystalline cellulose because it is just kind of wood pulp. It doesn't do much. Next, we have sodium starch glycolate, and this is an ingredient added to help with the dissolving of the active ingredients. Now, again, this isn't always necessary because we can look at Tirosint and say, does Tirosint have this? And the answer is no, it doesn't. And people absorb Tirosint better than pretty much any other thyroid medication, including Tirosint. Well, Tirosint Sol would be the best than Tirosint. So we know that these dissolving agents are probably necessary because of the compound of Armour Thyroid, but they're not necessary in general. The sourcing of sodium starch glycolate is either from rice, potato, wheat, or corn, which is probably why some people do have different reactions to this ingredient, depending on whether or not you have issues with those sources. Lastly, we have an ingredient called Padre White, and it was very difficult for me to get a lot of information on this particular ingredient, but I'll quote you exactly what was said on the website. And this is quote, use of an opadry film coating will result in attractive, elegant coatings on a variety of tablet cores, end quote. So it looks like the addition of this opadry white is really just there for the finished product. Perhaps more for a marketing standpoint to just make their capsules or tablets look a little more polished. I'm not quite sure. It doesn't seem like this is actually necessary. And I tried to find the ingredient list of the opadry white because it probably contains ingredients, maybe some colorings and some organic acids and such, but that was actually really difficult to find. So I can't tell you what's in the opadry white itself, but I can tell you that Armour Thyroid does have opadry white. And I would suspect that it's probably, if you're having issues with Armour Thyroid, it's probably from the opadry white or the sodium starch glycolate and potentially the dextrose sourcing. I don't think calcium stearate or microcrystalline cellulose are the big offenders in this case. They could be theoretically, but those other three are probably causing the majority of the issues. So this is the inactive ingredient list. The active ingredient list is always the same for any NDT formulation. It includes the active T4 thyroid hormone and the active T3 thyroid hormone, and each grain is standardized to contain 38 micrograms of T4 and 9 micrograms of T3. Now, it does also contain probably some T2 and some T1 and some calcitonin, but what's really important for you to know is that these doses are not standardized. So in other words, the manufacturers of Armour Thyroid, they standardize, which means they make sure that the T4 and the T3 dosing are the same, but they don't really care about the others. Yes, they're in there, but they're kind of like, whatever. We're not going to test for it. We're not going to standardize for it, and so on. So those are in there, but we don't know how much exists. And that would be the combination of the inactive and active ingredients found in Armour Thyroid. And remember, it's probably not the active ingredients, it's probably the inactive ingredients that would be causing you issues if you're having issues with it. So what can you do after hearing all this information? My recommendation would be to look at other sources of NDT medications. So you can try NP thyroid, or you can try a newer version of NDT called Adthyza. And I just did a video on that medication, which I would recommend that you check out next, especially if you're having issues with Armour Thyroid right now.